right, let's welcome back our political panel, a reporter and author of Second Class, Badia Unger-Sargon, along with Democratic strategist Lee Neves. We just saw the swearing in, only two HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Lee, I wanted to start with you this time. What do you expect out of him? It seems like, leave aside all the crazy things that are set up at RFK Jr., it does seem like a lot of people believe that there are problems in our food industry, pharmaceuticals, that sort of thing. What do you hope to get from RFK Jr.?
Well, I think there's one part where everyone, Republican, Democrat, can agree, and is very personal to me, is talking about what we consume, the food industry, how our food is made. Look, when I was sitting around for 8 months waiting for my liver transplant, my ex-wife used to tell me every single day, food is medicine, and it would annoy the hell out of me, but it's 100% true. You're talking to a guy who has to be very careful about what he consumes for the sole fact that I may die. So I think looking into our food industry and what we consume and how it is made and why it is causing obesity, and compared to maybe what's happening in Europe, where you don't have celiac intolerance, you don't have people with gluten allergies in Europe, but there seems to be an epidemic of it here in America. I think that's something Republican, Democrat, Independent, everyone can agree on. We all want our population to be healthier. And the fact that 60% of our population isn't is something that, can be nipped in the bud, and hopefully that's something that RFK Jr. really focuses on.
Yeah, Lee, I hope you're doing better. I had a reaction to an antibiotic that put my liver in jeopardy, and they were looking for a transplant. I totally understand. You can't live without your liver. That's one thing I learned for sure. Your body's just not processing. So, Badia, I'm glad you're doing better, Lee. Badia, this is something I think that a lot of people know there are problems in our food industry and a number of the things that are fed to consumers that we have very little control over. So what do you hope RFK Jr. is able to accomplish?
So first of all, thank God both of you are okay and better and seem to be very healthy, and I hope you both are, and what traumatic things to have gone through. And by the grace of God, we're all sitting here and talking, and I hope that you're both totally recovered. I'm not a big fan of RFK Jr., and I don't really understand what President Trump sees in him. I think it was really cool that President Trump wanted a very diverse cabinet and that he invited into Democrats, effectively liberals, Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. I'm a big fan of Tulsi Gabbard, but to me, RFK Jr. is just a Nepo baby who was raised in the lap of luxury with all of the privilege in the world and did not do very much with that in terms of public service. I think he is anti-vax. I think he's lying when he says that he's not. I don't think Donald Trump's going to allow him to implement anything dangerous or harmful to our nation. But I think that RFK Jr. has he has it in reverse. People are unhealthy and overweight and have chronic illnesses because they are poor, because there have been intentional economic policies put in place that have made working class people poor. It's not the other way around. He thinks that they can't achieve their dreams because they're sick. And I think they're sick because, they have not been able to achieve just the most basic version of the American dream. So I really hope he's not granted a lot of power to change very much. He's going to be in charge of things that are extremely important to very vulnerable Americans: Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and vaccines, which, I think probably all of us, there's a very big difference between being a COVID vaccine skeptic, which I think is a very good thing to be,
right,
and then just a vaccine skeptic. And I don't think he makes the difference.
Yeah, and I would say the mandate of the vaccine is a real issue, especially for a lot of conservatives.
Exactly.
And by the way, I didn't get to where Lee was. I recovered and I was fine. But it did make me appreciate what people go through. So, Lee, how do you make this country healthier? Because I think all three of us here want the country to be healthier. And it seems like the whole system makes it tough. You go to the store, it's all high-calorie trash with bad nutrition. You really have to work, it seems, to get healthy food. It shouldn't be that hard.
Well, I think there's two prongs, and he alluded to it. RFK Jr. alluded to it when he first got in, when he was talking about when he first visited, when he first started speaking, when he talked about when he first visited the White House with his uncle, John F. Kennedy Jr. Our nation needs to not only be able to eat better and have more nutritious food and food that is healthy. I mean, look, when I graduated high school, I was living at home with my Portuguese immigrant mom who made everything from scratch, and I was healthy as can be. As soon as I get to college, I start gaining weight. How do I lose that weight? I am now working out. I am active. I am going to spin class. I am doing my 3 workouts a week. We as a nation need to get more active. Along with eating healthier, we need to get more active. We need to go for those walks. Maybe not a 50-mile walk, but those daily
Yeah,
walks.
right.
We need to get up and be active and move our bodies and use them for what they were used for. If that means going to a spin class, go into a CrossFit class, that means just walking around your neighborhood. We as a country have become too sedentary to an extent, and I think those 2 things will go a long way towards making us a healthier country.
Yeah, Badia, let me switch the focus a little bit to the education department. Linda McMahon up there, you know, if things go smoothly for her, whoever it is, President Trump would like to get rid of the education department. I don't know that Congress will go along with that, but what do you think needs to be done to improve education and getting rid of some of the problems in the education department? If you get rid of it, you still got to improve education. What would you do?
So it's my understanding that curricula are actually set by the different states, and so that happens at a much lower level of government than this sort of official department, which I think is by and large relegated to things like Pell Grants and so forth, which I think are a good thing. But you know, if President Trump thinks that we don't need that, don't need a government overseeing that, that's definitely his prerogative. In terms of curriculum, I think that the more localized you can have it, the better, because ultimately, children who are in public school are in public school because their parents can't afford private school, and those parents should get to have a say about what their children are taught and at what level. And you know, it really goes both ways, right? You know, if you don't have the parents' input, you could have a conservative administration enforcing conservative views that liberal parents don't like, or you could have a liberal administration enforcing views that conservative parents don't want. So you really want the parent to have as much say as possible, I believe, in terms of what the education of their child is. They have that in private school automatically when they can afford it, and I think they deserve that even if they can't.
Lee, what do you think needs to be done?
Well, I just want to start off by saying if I were a Democratic senator, I would be very worried about voting against Linda McMahon, if for no other reason than out of nowhere, I may get hit with a rock bottom, the people's elbow, or her son-in-law's signature move, the pedigree by Triple H.
Well, I mean, you're saying that, Lee, but let me switch it up on you a little bit. When I'm seeing Cheryl Hines there with RFK Jr., I keep waiting for Larry David to appear, and that's what I'm waiting on.
Is it Larry David or is it Bernie Sanders? Take your pick. But no,
true.
But, you know, on education, what needs to be done, yeah, you know, local control is better. But I think there just needs to be a standard across the board for the 4 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic, and responsibility. There needs to be just a standard across the board. And I know Donald Trump is talking about eliminating the department. Obviously, you can't do that unless you go through an act of Congress, but it is in, he's the president, he was voted in. It's absolutely his prerogative to have shape the Department of Education in the vision he sees. I just hope it really goes down to using those Title I funds, using that money that goes to the schools, and really focusing on those core curriculum subjects that are going to make the students of today the workforce of tomorrow.
We're running out of time, and I apologize for that. But Lee Neves, Badia Sargon. Badia, I want you to come back because I'd love to talk more about the tariffs, because I think there are arguments to be made there. And I love your argument. You always make great ones. But I want to push back a little bit. A lot of people are not crazy about tariffs. And so I think we could have that conversation, hopefully in a civil way. Okay, thank you so much, folks.